You know what you're doing?
I think I know what I'm doing. I didn't quite wear them right.
Okay, go.
We're going to be sitting. Okay. Yeah, good. I'm good. Good to see you. Thank you very much.
Important to store photography this week.
Okay, good. You're a good photographer. Everybody, thank you all for coming out on a Wednesday night near the end of the semester. I'm absolutely thrilled to welcome an alum from the class of 2000, Rudy Cline-Thomas, who some of you may know about. Rudy is the founder and managing partner of a company called Mastery Inc., which I think is a new incarnation of an enterprise he's been working on for a while. They specialize in identifying investment opportunities for partners, and those investment opportunities include companies like Thrive Global, Casper, which, has anybody heard of Casper? Yeah, that's a millennial brand. So I won't go into all that detail, but we'll hear a little bit more about that. And he partnered with Bloomberg Technology to create something called the Players Technology Summit, which brings top leaders in technology, venture capital, and the sports communities together to talk about technology investing and trends and to generate partnership opportunities. He's a member of the advisory board of Intent, an investment management company that's mission is to advance and support women entrepreneurs of culture. And Rudy works and lives in New York City, but he travels a lot, and we're really lucky that he was able to fit this visit into his schedule. So what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to ask Rudy some questions. We're going to do this interview style. We'll do that for about 20, 25 minutes, and then we're going to open it up to you all for questions, and then we're going to break a little bit before 8, and we have lots of pizza showing up out in the atrium, so we can go and satiate ourselves, and you'll have an opportunity to chat with Rudy in a very informal setting. So big round of applause. And also applause for you all for coming out. So I'm going to start at the most relatable level for these guys here. How did you wind up at Providence College, and why did you choose finance?
Well, I'll start by saying you guys make me feel terribly old. Coming here, I think it's been, 18, 20 years since I left PC. And it's funny walking the campus today and remembering, those long walks to, 8 o'clock class and not knowing exactly why I was going to class. And seeing the day, coming back and speaking to you guys is quite nostalgic and putting myself in you guys' shoes. So again, it's great to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity of speaking to you guys. So my parents actually made me come to PC,
And they're right here as special guests.
So I don't know if I had too much of a choice, but we just said it was my last visit of one of the colleges that I was a Martin Luther King scholar here 18 years ago. And had the opportunity, obviously, to get a great education here. I love the business school here as well, too. I had a gentleman who was who graduated with me in school as well, too. And we were close friends and just decided to come here. We loved the campus, loved the curriculum, and it was an easy choice once we visited.
And how did your experience on campus prepare you for what you did after college?
In various ways. So socially, I think that it wasn't as much diversity as we see nowadays. I came from Washington D.C., so it was very much a culture shock initially when I got here, for the most part. But again, just learning the finance specifically. I majored in finance because my dad was in business. I had no idea what finance was when we checked the box off, or initially when my parents made me choose specifically a major. But I learned the intricacies of business, that's I think has helped me tremendously. And most importantly, I had just great teachers, great professors that pushed me to basically in ways that I never knew that I could at first, And then I think I took the onus of ownership of my classes and specific courses that I loved. Especially, I love business management. I love my business management course. I love business policy. Didn't like accounting much. Who takes accounting in here? Anyone like it?
Are there any accounting faculty in the room?
Sorry if there's any accounting faculty in the room or whatever. But yeah, those were the courses that I treaded to versus accounting.
So other than accounting, like what were there classes that you didn't like at the time that you now realize were maybe even accounting fits in that?
Yeah, it does. Like I think about accounting nowadays, like the mundane, aspect of accounting, it never triggered. But obviously nowadays, looking at balance sheets and having to do a lot of diligence, you realize, wow, I wish I paid more attention. Even like Excel spreadsheets as well too. You think it's like tedious, like busy work. But again, that became so helpful, nowadays, and understanding exactly why I needed to pay attention in those courses as well.
So I'm gonna go off script for a minute. So you just mentioned diligence.
Yeah.
So what is that, and how does that? Because not everybody here may understand that reference. What does that mean? And
so I'll tell you guys a little bit further back as to what I did after school. So after school, I think before my senior year, I was an intern at the NBA. So we had a successful basketball run here. I think our freshman year is when we went to Elite Eight here. And a lot of the guys I was close to that were in the NBA as well too. A gentleman that I grew up with got drafted that year by the name of Steve Francis. And I had an affinity for getting back into the NBA and the league. Sham God was in the league. Austin was in the league. I was like, I'm the finance guy, I'm the smart guy that told them exactly what to do, in reference to choosing their agents and agencies. I think this is a business that I have an affinity for. Let me try to get in. So I sent my resume out to the NBA. I think I sent about 12 to 15 resumes. I went to the Career Center. I got the address and just continued to send my resume until I heard something back. And on the last week of school, I'd been accepted to be an intern at Reebok in Stoughton, Mass. And I think I accepted to go to Stoughton, I think, to Reebok. And then we got an acceptance at the NBA in New York, and they gave me 24 hours to accept the internship. And I knew at that time that I was probably the last person. Either somebody didn't want the internship, the slot, and I filled it or whatever, but they only gave us 24 hours for me to find housing in New York. So I took it, I turned down Reebok, and that essentially changed my life. And again, it started with here and just having the resources in the Career Center and using them to facilitate relationships going further. So I would say first and foremost, guys, use all the resources that you have. I mean, in your place, when I was in your place, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what was gonna come next. I had no idea what I wanted to do. Didn't even know how to apply it, but I knew that I'd figure it out through the passion that I had. I had a passion for sports and I had a passion for business. And, the best way to combine the two at the time, I thought, was just working in the NBA and figuring it out from there. So, I took it step by step, and didn't know exactly what was going to happen behind the door, but just getting in the door was the first step and letting everything else happen after that.
So fast forward, so now you use accounting to do diligence. So how did you
I didn't even answer your question, did I?
How did you get from, no, you didn't, but that's okay. I'm a teacher, I'm used to that. How did you get from that very first job where you turned down Reebok and went to the NBA? How did you get from there to where you're looking at spreadsheets and accounts and trying to understand what's a valuable investment for somebody or not?
So I feel like taking them down the whole road. Can I do that?
You can go down the whole road. Yeah.
So
you're making it sound like you're ancient.
No, that's true. I feel ancient here amongst all these guys.
You're not. Trust me.
So So after the NBA, Steve got drafted, and I started working at Williams & Connolly, which was a sports agency at the time. It was part of a law firm called Williams & Connolly. They had Grant Hill and Tim Duncan. This was 2001, and I became the youngest agent in the NBA in 2001. Did it for 3 to 4 years, and I realized that I had a huge appetite for entrepreneurship. And essentially, being a sports agent, it's a lot of babysitting. I felt like I was spending more of my time babysitting than applying, finance, the appetite for entrepreneurship, and any business acumen that I had to my profession. So I said, a lot of these guys don't have the wherewithal. They don't have the right people in their ears telling them exactly how to make investments, how to leverage their celebrity to make more money off the court and off the field. And I saw a huge opportunity at my age to manage their finances and help them with their off-court endeavors. And in 2006, I started a firm called the Blueprint Advisors. And I managed all their money off the court, and helped them with their their post-career planning. And that's when it started. So I'd say, the diligence part and
But wait, let me just,
Sure.
so here you are, you're like the youngest agent ever, and now you're telling people how to manage all their money? Like, how did you, how old were you at that point?
I was 25.
So how did that happen? That seems incredible.
Well, no, it's when you're babysitting, when you're doing more babysitting than anything else, I think people glorify the sports industry because you take a look at it from a bird's eye view from the outside. You never know exactly what it entails unless you're in the inside. And managing a professional athlete's career is definitely a daunting task. Just given the pressures of the money that they make, obviously the celebrity. And I had more interest in business than I had in the advent of being a sports agent and what it entailed. So it wasn't a hard decision for me at all. I think, luckily enough for me.
How did you get people to trust you at 25 that you could make smart financial decisions?
Well, a lot of them were guys that I came up with, so it's guys that I grew up with, guys that I had been given that type of education before. As a sports agent, I always told the guys exactly where to invest and how to invest their money as well, too. So I've never stopped that. I've always had a keen interest in the markets, and I always told them that. So it was a natural, very, very much a natural transition for me. So I did that, guys, for 10 years, built my firm out, sold it in 2015. And in 2013, I started investing in tech. I had a keen interest in technology. That's a lot of where our earnings were coming from, and I wanted to get in as early as possible. I didn't want to invest in the secondary markets and the public markets. I saw exactly where the market was trending to, and I said, why can't we get in there, much earlier? So I started going out there on my own, going to conferences, and started developing relationships with companies, startups.
So that takes you to today? Or that was 2013, you sold your company in 2015?
So in the last 7 years, we've had 5 exits. So one of my clients, one of my early clients was a guy named Andre Iguodala, who played with 76ers at the time when he became my client. And he introduced me to Steph Curry when he got to the Warriors. And both of them are totally very, very smart guys. Andre Iguodala is not an athlete, I would never tell him this to his face, and if he finds this out, I know there's a leak, somewhere here in the crowd, but I would say he might be smarter than me, He was a math major in school. He has a keen interest for leverage, for building wealth, and he's taught a lot of that to Steph. We built a great relationship initially early on, just me managing his money. But when we started going out to the Valley and figuring out exactly the leverage that they had and getting into companies early, Steph jumped on board, and everybody else has obviously followed suit, and we've had a tremendous success doing so.
So I don't know if everybody's following, but basically part of this is investing in startups, right? So talk a little bit about, some of the thought process that you've gone through and some of the investments you've made, and I think that's where diligence comes in.
Still haven't answered your question yet.
That's okay. It was obviously not a good question.
We get a lot of inbound, as you can imagine, from startups. I mean, there's millions of startups all over the place. I mean, I'm sure even here, there's been a couple of students that have started their own companies. And doing diligence for a lot of these companies is understanding market size, understanding exactly the industries in which these companies are trying to disrupt, understanding exactly the founders and their acumen to execute as well too. Again, there's so many factors in going into understanding how to differentiate these companies and all the different companies that you see come across your desk.
So do you spend a lot of time in Silicon Valley?
Yeah,
Is that where most of the...
That's my second home for the most part. That's, as you guys know, that's where everything's happening now. That's where most of the growth is. And you have to be there. I mean, it's not going to change anytime soon, and that's where a lot of the talent is as well too.
So I'm not sure this is totally a fair question because you're not really in the sports industry anymore. Sounds like you're in the investment industry. But an awful lot of young people who come to PC come because they want to be on a campus where we've got great sports teams to cheer on and to support. And there's a pretty big part of our culture that's around athletics, whether it's our D1 teams or our intramural teams, which are pretty intense, or if it's just our club teams. But a lot of young people come here, and like you, they sort of think that I think the term used was glorify the sports industry. So I bet there's a bunch of people in this room who want to pursue that.
How many people in this room want to pursue sports or work in the sports industry after you leave here? That's a good number.
So talk to us a little bit about your perception, first as an insider, now as a little bit more removed. What's going on in the industry and.
Well, first and foremost, I would say, guys, don't believe the hype, right? So you only believe half of what you read. So there's so much that goes into it. There's so much that goes into understanding exactly what's going on in the industry as it applies to sports. I'd say focus on business more so than sports. I think sports currently right now is trending a little bit behind what we see in business. And also what's happening now is not going to be the same as, possibly in the next couple months. It's forever changing. So it's very important that you understand trends and you understand exactly, you understand business. Sports is secondary. And it's also very important to be an independent thinker as well, too. Don't be afraid of having a specific understanding of, where you think the market may be going, what you might think the next hot thing is, or the next industry that might pop, or, where, sports might leverage, what industry it might leverage into, going forward and possibly, looking into working in that industry as well, too, and trying to get ahead that way. A great example is betting. There's FanDuel and DraftKings, and both of those companies blew up. But again, Adam Silver came back and said, he's trying to make it legal for the NBA, and the reason is why they need to make more money. He's employed by the owners, and there's only but so many ways that the NBA can make revenue moving forward. So again, gambling will be legalized in most sports in the next 2 years. But again, it's just understanding exactly where markets move and staying on top of those trends.
So right now, if you're in business, you can major in finance, marketing, management. It sounds like you were finance and marketing or accounting. I think most of these people have probably chosen a major and are going down the path. But do you have any view about is marketing understanding going to get you the best? Should you focus on the finance side? What of those disciplinary areas do you think is?
I say focus on your passion. Focus on whatever you like, whatever you're comfortable with. Again, I think sometimes the biggest gift that my parents gave me is they didn't force me to in any one sector, or it wasn't about what they thought made the most money, or it was never that understanding. I was always focused on really what I wanted to do and being an independent thinker. I think everybody here is motivated by money. Who wants to make a lot of money? I hope so. I hope so. I hope all you guys want to make a lot of money, but it only comes from being an independent thinker and not following the trend and not following exactly what everybody's doing. Independent thinkers are the ones that are going to be trailblazers. They're going to be the ones to disrupt, and don't get caught up in, again, what you read. It's very important to be an independent thinker, but have your own basis by which you make your own decisions.
Great. So I was going to close with a question about advice. You've given a lot of advice to these young people already, but do you have any other things you want to say? And then we'll open it up to you all for questions. I'm sure you have a lot of questions.
Well, I have one last thing to say is just follow your dreams. I was a big dreamer when I was on this campus. I mean, I remember just, the advent of coming from DC and then coming to a small city like Providence or Providence College. I have my best friend here who we met here on this campus, and we used to always just talk about what we possibly do when we left, and we had no idea. What is it now? What's it? 17 years later. 17 years later, where we'd be. You have no idea what the next 5 years, what the next 10 years are going to be. So don't even worry about planning for it. Follow your gut, follow what your passion is today, and make the most of it. And it's also not what you know, it's also who you know. Network the hell out of the school and all the opportunities that you have. It's very, very important as to who you know and not specifically what you know. So it's important to get out there, meet people, and again, if you're a shy individual or you have reservations of what to say and how to say it, try your best to calm all those fears that you have and just go after it. That's what's gonna take.
That's pretty inspiring advice. Calm all those fears. It's not so easy.
That's not.
All right, the floor is yours. I know you guys have questions, and we are recording this, so if you can wait for the microphone. Jackie, right down here, this gentleman in the second row has his hand up. If you can wait for the microphone, that'll just help us with the recording. Thank you. And please say your name and how you're connected to our community.
I'm KJ Hammond. I'm the video graduate assistant in the athletic department here at Providence College, graduating class of 2018. You said one of my favorite sayings that I love to expand on. It's not what you know, but who you know. And I like to say it's rather who knows you. So you've gotten to where you are in life largely because of your passion, but also because of those athletes, those studs that knew you, Andre Iguodala, Steve Francis, and you've helped them out along the way as they've helped you. Now, I want to know, how do you suggest someone who doesn't necessarily know those studs or superstar athletes leverage their positions to network and work alongside athletes and investments?
Yeah, well, they didn't get me to the NBA, Knowing those guys didn't get me anywhere, on the outset when I was here, living in Fennell Hall on the first floor, That didn't help me at all, right? So it was perseverance, I can honestly say that I wasn't the greatest student here at all. I just worked harder than everybody, once I realized where I wanted to do and where I wanted to go, and that's all that it took. I think the NBA saw that when you see my letter, coming in every day for a week or two, I think that they realized that I really wanted that position, and I've used that passion and that work ethic. It hasn't stopped yet. I think I developed that. I developed a stronger work ethic, I feel, once, from being afraid of possibly what I was going to do once I was leaving here. I think that's when it started, because I definitely had a good time my first 2 years, For sure. Did I answer your question? You did. Okay, good.
Other questions?
Good evening. Thank you for coming. My name is Marcin. I'm the finance faculty. You've talked a lot about numbers and looking at numbers. Are any of your decisions based outside of the numbers, or if the numbers tell you to take an investment, do you ever go against the numbers? And a question related to that is, how many investment decisions do you pass by? Like, maybe you take one deal out of 10. What are the statistics in that? Are the numbers and also related to that, are the numbers the driving decisions and the only decisions in your decision making? Because sometimes there are soft aspects like management, quality, and stuff like that. Do you ever look at that?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. So first and foremost, numbers are what they are. You know, most of this room can interpret numbers the same way. The difference between me and you and how we might decipher a company or do our diligence is I have a better acumen of understanding people possibly than you. It's always about people, you know, and that's a huge differentiator, I think, and that's a weakness that a lot of people have in understanding, you know, the dynamics of investing is it's always about people. You know, the numbers are what they are, and that's very, very easy to disseminate and look at and interpret. But people is a different challenge in understanding people. And just to answer your question as to how many investments that I turned down most of them. Most of them aren't great investments from my point of view, and a very finite few are ones that I think that are ones worth investing in.
The same investment, will it be for Steph Curry and Mr. Iguodala? Is it the same? Do you look at like the risk tolerance at all, or is it you buy basically investments for all the clients the same?
Yeah, it's all pretty much the same. They basically follow my lead for the most part. You know, I do most of the diligence and educate them as to why to make an investment and why not to, for sure. But that's a great point too. And again, that's another resounding thing that I'll say is understanding people is more important than understanding numbers. First and foremost, it's very, very important that understanding people and the psychology of why people make certain decisions is more important than anything.
So you look at the team of around the founders when you're evaluating a company? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, it starts from the top down though, right? So it starts from the top down and the sensibility that a lot of these founders have. So, you know, why they came up with their thesis, what's their motivating factor behind their thesis. Personally, what's their motivating essence of who they are as people, first and foremost. You know, a lot of times you might meet founders that just want to be rich. You know, that's not a founder that you really want to, support, you know, at the end of the day. And or a founder that's trying to sell their company in the next 2 or 3 years. That's not realistic as well, too. So again, it's just understanding exactly the motivations of the founders, and that always resounds amongst the entire, you could call it C-suite, and all the people that follow their lead in their company for the most part. It always starts with the founder. That's
what are the motivations that you're looking for? You said the ones you're not looking for, but what are you? So you're not looking for getting rich. You're not looking for selling soon. What are you looking for? What are the motivations that are most important?
Well, with a founder specifically is somebody that has an intrinsic passion for whatever they're doing or what they're trying to create and or what they're trying to disrupt, right? So it's something that they feel very passionate about and or bothered by. And then, you know, on the optics side is market size. You know, how big is the opportunity? How big is the market that they're trying to attack? And, you know, what does competition look like? I think that, you know, if I was to give some, you know, Cliff Note version of how to look at a situation and analyze it, that's what I'd say.
So the numbers come in to some extent on the market size assessment.
Correct.
The people piece comes in. Great. Other questions? I don't want to monopolize the question asking here. Back over here, three all in a huddle over here, so you guys can pass the mic.
Thank you. Hi, Ethan Reddington. I'm in the MBA program here. I think for some of us in the room who might be undergrad looking for their first job, and then other people who are in the program like me and might be working their first job, we all know it's a little overwhelming trying to almost envision the career that you want to do because there's so many options that are available to us. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to see if you'd talk a little bit about, you know, your experience and if, you know, you doubted yourself if you were making the right decisions and kind of what kept pushing you, you know, putting one foot in front of the other to get you here today where you are.
Good question. I can honestly say that for a long time, I say probably from the standpoint that I was 24 to possibly even 32, I had no idea what the rest of, you know, what I was going to be doing for the next 10 years. I couldn't say that I really loved managing money. I couldn't tell you, I already told you that I didn't like being an agent. I was an entrepreneur always at heart, but I had no idea how that would come out and where that sensibility would come from or where that opportunity would come from. I essentially kept my head down and kept my eyes open as to, you know, new opportunities that presented themselves, and that's what's gotten me to this position today. You can call it luck if you want to, but again, it's just keep your head down and keep your eyes open for the opportunities. There's always going to be an opportunity that will present itself. It's just, do you have the sensibility to recognize it when it does present itself? So always just keep your head work hard, keep your head down, network, but have your eyes and ears open, because an opportunity will always present itself.
If you don't, Steve and Dan down here had questions.
Steve Duryea, I work in development for PC, and just an outside question. Besides Steph and Iguodala, who else do you deal with? Other names, other sports?
I'd have to kill you if I told you.
Yeah, okay.
But no,
but baseball,
no, for
football?
Sure, yep. So,
is it mainly basketball? Or?
No, Neymar, David Beckham, James Harden, and those are a couple names, just to name a few. But yeah, different disciplines and different sports, for sure. I've definitely served as a bridge now between, the sports industry and investing in tech, for sure. Most of the guys, most of the athletes globally that are interested in investing in tech invest with us or invest behind us or I advise their business advisors as to what investments to make.
I got one other question. When you had to work your pants off, when you were getting started, how many hours a day were you working?
Ask my parents.
Yeah, no, I want, these people need to hear that.
I don't sleep much. I still don't sleep much. When you love what you do, it's not work. I think you guys have heard that before. So I've always been chided for not sleeping enough, but I love what I do. And again, when you love what you do, it'll never feel like work. Let everybody tell you to go to sleep if they want to. They can sleep if they want to. But again, if you're having fun and you love what you do, but if you're in control as well of your destiny, which everybody has the opportunity to be in control of your destiny, it's fun. It's crazy fun.
So I'm just going to follow up, and then there's a question back there, a question down here. But so, do you do anything that's not work that's fun, or is?
Wow, what a question! Look at you.
Well, balanced life is a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
do you have any non-work hobbies?
Just told me. I travel a lot. Obviously, I play tennis every morning.
Wow.
I still work out. Yeah, and I have fun with my friends. All my friends from PC are still my closest friends, so we still have a good time and see each other all the time as well too. So, and I spend a lot of time with my family, as you know. So
I knew it, because part of the PC culture is having fun with your friends.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, I knew it. All right,
here.
that back there is Jackie, or where's the mic?
Yeah, I have it.
Down here. Okay, great. Oh, awesome.
I'm Luke Kessler. I'm a sophomore marketing major. I just have a question about your daily routine and what you do on a daily basis to stay organized and make sure you're getting the most out of your time just on a daily basis, or
That's
what
a great
you
question.
do first.
So now to go back and you asked, the biggest thing that I probably missed here was time management, right? So coming out of here, I didn't have an essence of time management. And I think that's the biggest thing actually college prepares you for. At the end of the day, is being able to manage your time. I remember coming here, and remember when we had so much time to spare, and it's just how would you use your time, and how would you apply it, and how would you manage it? A lot of times it seemed like there wasn't enough time in the day when you have, finals or exams or everything piles up at once. But again, it's all manageable, and that's a skill to take. You'll have to learn, once you leave here as well too. But it's unbelievably important. My daily routine is I generally get up between 5:30 and 6:30. I'm on the tennis court at 7:30 to 9. I'm in the office by 9:45. I usually have a dinner meeting at 7. I'm home by 9. I'm in bed by 11, 12 o'clock.
I'm exhausted. I think, Dan, did you have a question? All right, and then we'll go back.
Hi, Talia Rudys. I'm also in the MBA program. Previously, you said that trends are always changing, and I just wanted to kind of ask how you are staying in front of them. And you said in the MBA, things can change within months. And how are you staying on top of these trends?
Just constantly read. I read everything that I can get my hands on. That's it. I read everything as much as possible. You'll develop your own modes of thinking and your own theses as well too, the more that you read and the more that you see things happening. The reason why I was able to disrupt the sports industry, especially the sports management industry, is because I always say, like, agents are lawyers typically. Some of them are really bad lawyers as well too, but there's a specific mode of thinking, and that's the reason why the agency business hasn't changed in the last 30 years, but they've been married to doing business a certain type of way for so long, and that's why the whole industry is being disrupted now. And that's why things are going to change invariably. But again, that's what happens in every single industry as well too. We're seeing the content industry being disrupted as well, massively, because studio heads have been doing business the same way for the last 30 years and haven't been adept at changing. And here goes now, Netflix has become the 800-pound gorilla over the last 5 years, only because they've taken a left-wing approach to content. So again, it's going to happen in so many different ways. But is how much do you know it, and again, how is it applied to sports? Sports is usually generally late to catch up when it comes to disruption, or it comes to industry shifts as well too. So it's a great industry to be ahead of the curve in.
Great, good question. I think there was a hand way in the back. All right, we'll go back to you after Professor Horn here.
Dan Horn from the marketing department in the Dean's office. I wondered about, do you try to get people involved in leadership roles, board positions, things like that? Because you have, everybody knows Steph Curry's a brilliant guy, really smart. Went to Davidson, all that. But there is a notion out there that, the dumb jock myth. Is that something that you try to do, is to get people to help the leadership of these organizations actually learn something from your clients, or is?
Yeah, for sure. I think that a lot of times nowadays, those guys are speaking at conferences about leadership. They've been pretty hot commodities on the conference circuit for discussing leadership. The essence of Golden State and how that team's comprised, and how they've been able to sustain their excellence for the last 4 years, again, can be attributable to organizations and companies. And a lot of CEOs are quite interested in learning from those guys, how they communicate, how they don't kill each other, and most importantly, how they maintain playing together for so long and at a certain level.
Was your question, do they get on boards? Is that?
They're not yet. I don't think they have the acumen yet to sit on boards yet. But I think that they definitely want to emulate the top CEOs in the world now more so than ever. For sure. And then the bridge is getting smaller and smaller as time goes along.
Seems like it'd be a great opportunity for talented people on corporate boards, diversify boards a little more.
Yeah, I wish the CEOs were more open to it. I think it'll happen. It's just not yet, but it's going to happen. But that's great insight.
And then there was back there. Yep. And
hello, I'm Nicole. I'm also on the MBA program, and I just had a quick question building off of some of the other questions, and you talked about your morning routine and going to the office. And I guess I was just wondering what your office is like in terms of like your firm, how big it is, how many people you go in and work with and that are doing similar jobs as you.
So yeah, no one really does the same job that I do. So I have 12 individuals that work in mastery specifically. And they all look at different things. Some of them are on the startups, getting back to different startups and different founders. We have our portfolio companies that we're currently invested in as well too. There are other founders and CEOs and VCs that are a part of our network. I'm very, very active on the conference tour circuit, and again, networking as well too. I mean, I have a very, very keen network of VCs that I invest with as well, that they manage as well too for me. So no one does the same thing or focuses specifically on what I look at. Everybody's pretty much spread out efficiently.
So you mentioned as a trend gaming. Any other trends that you are imagining or seeing?
Yeah, I think one trend is athletes no longer needing agents. I think agents will become not totally extinct, but their leverage and who they are amongst the sports industry landscape is going to change inherently as guys take more ownership of their brands and understand their financial leverage as well. I think Kobe's a great example. They were talking today, I saw an article on ESPN about Kobe. He's the third largest investor in body armor, and they are expecting revenue of close to $400 million this year. Again, just stuff like that's coming up. It's just opening the eyes of more athletes understanding exactly their leverage and who they are and what they're capable of doing. From a financial side of things, it's not just playing the sport anymore. Another thing is content. I think that's on the tip of everybody's tongue nowadays. We read about it every day. We talked about gaming. I think those are the top three that I can think of right now with things changing.
So are you invested in the gaming space?
Yeah, I invested in a company called WinView. CEO is a guy named Tom Rogers. He was the former CEO and founder of TiVo. He sold TiVo, I think, 3 years ago. He was the president of NBC Universal, and he created CNBC. And WinView is a gaming application where it's a social application where you can not gamble yet, but you can interact on trading. Let's say, for instance, if James Harden is going to score 15 points this quarter, we can bet on it. What we bet on, again, is up for us to negotiate. But again, it's going to turn into a gambling app soon, as soon as the NBA turns on the spigot. So we're just trying to he owns 82 patents on in-game interaction, in-game betting interaction currently right now. So it's more so an IP play, and we'll see how it goes.
And is that a space with a lot of potential investments in it, or?
We'll see what happens.
Competitive?
Everyone's afraid now of what happened with DraftKings and FanDuel. I think both of those companies, they blew over $9 billion, amongst both of them. So everyone's caution right now. But again, Adam Silver just had a memorandum of making gambling legal, and he's only the first mover. It's going to happen in the NFL and Major League Baseball shortly after. So we'll see what happens.
Great. So I'll close with a question. Are there any other questions out there before my final question? What's your best example of an investment that you've made along with some of your players?
Best investment thus far is a sneaker app called GOAT. Anyone use it here? So
you got a couple.
Yeah, we got a couple. So 2 years ago, the founder approached us to invest in the company. It was just merely an app, an idea, and it was a valuation of $5 million, and they currently raised at a valuation of $265 3 weeks ago, and they bought another company called Flight Club in New York City. So that's right now is our best performer.
And you went in at the $5 million valuation?
Yes, we did. Yeah, $5 million valuation.
What does the app do? Yeah, what is it?
It's just neat. So somebody who uses it. Go ahead. Tell them what it does specifically.
It's essentially like eBay for used sneakers or new sneakers, and you can't find it in the store. You can probably find it on the app.
Secondary sneaker market. Obviously, you know how hot that is. It's the market leader in the secondary sneaker market space.
What an incredibly simple idea.
You think? The simple ones are the best ones, though.
Yeah, great. Well, join me in a huge round of applause for Rudy.
Thank you.
So feel free to come on down and ask questions, and then we'll make our way out also for pizza. Thank you guys for being a great audience.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.